वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. Dear devotees, in the previous month we finished second chapter Sankhya Yoga, and also previous class we tried to recall the summary of the Sankhya Yoga too. Today we shall try to understand the Karma Yoga. But before entering into the Karma Yoga, I would like to discuss few points about the word karma. As Sri Krishna himself says in the Bhagavad Gita, Gahana karmano gatihi. The path of karma is very confusing. Even the wisest persons, the greatest persons have confused what is karma, what is action in itself. So, the path of action, the karma or even the karma yoga, is highly confusing for many people. And more than that, the word karma itself is highly confusing. Because in our Indian scriptures, starting from Vedas, Upanishads, then in Puranas, then in Dharma Shastra Granthas, then in other texts, and in local colloquial language, the word karma is used in a different sense at different times. So probably this is one of the reason to get a confusion for us. And also there's a lack of understanding and lack of study too. And Swamiji, Swami Vivekananda gives beautiful definition and beautiful explanation and beautiful derivation of karma in his masterpiece Karma Yoga. Now, this word karma, how it comes? It comes from a dhatu root kru. Kru means to do, to perform. So whatever we perform, whatever we do, whatever the actions may be, everything is called karma, action, as per Swami Vivekananda. But if you study Bhagavad Gita in the light of Adi Shankaracharya, many times where he discusses and he gives a lot of bhashya, lot of explanation regarding karma is entirely different. Here, most of the time, when Shankaracharya tells about karma, he describes or he tries to tell about the karma is Vaidika karma. That is sacrifices, yajna, homa, havana, agnihotra. That is the reason we are getting a lot of misunderstanding here. Now, either maybe physical action, mental action, intellectual action, or spiritual actions. All these actions are involved, or just you can bring out or can be boiled out in the word karma. So it can be physical action, it can be mental action, it can be intellectual action, that is study, it can be spiritual action like meditation, upasana, or tapas. Now, based on very broad classification, generally we try to describe, without going to the technicalities, the karma is described or classified into two types of karma. Sat karma, dushkarma. That probably every one of us, we know that. What is sat karma? Good actions, which benefits us and others, that is called sat karma. And dushkarma is a wrong action, prohibited actions, which brings bad results for us. And also, either me or others will not be happy or will not be beneficial. Such type of actions, such type of karma are called bad actions. Though in India, lakhs of books have been written on every subject, the beauty of our ancient sages is, after writing lakhs of books, everything they have boiled out to the one shloka or two shloka. Yesterday I was reading a book, a magazine there, all 18 Puranas they have put in a one shloka. If you remember that shloka, then we will be able to remember all the 18 shlokas. If you see in Rigveda and any Veda, one sarga over, one chapter over, the chapter will end with a one shloka. In the shloka, every word denotes every shloka. Like for an example, Jata Veda se Durga Sukta Vital. If it comes in a Rigveda, in that end of a sarga, somewhere we'll be able to see in the shloka Jata Vedase. So that whole one shloka, if you remember, whatever the shlokas, whatever the stotras we come across in the Rig Veda, everything will be able to remember. Such type of wonderful art of studying, art of memorization was there in India. So similarly, after writing 18 Puranas, someone approached Bhagavan Veda Vyasa and they tell, 18 Puranas, every Purana has got so many shlokas. For an example, some Skanda Purana, very big one, or Padma Purana, Bhavishottara Purana, Garuda Purana, like that 18 Puranas are there, which is very, very difficult for us. And we don't have time. Most of the people, we all say that we don't have time. So similarly, some people, they also said with Lord Veda Vyasa that we don't have time. So whatever you have written in Puranas, can you tell in a nutshell? Can you give the essence of the Puranas in at least 1 or 2 or 3, 4 slokas? The Veda Vyasa tells that why 2 sloka, 3 sloka, 4 sloka. Let me tell the whole purport, the whole essence of 18 Puranas in the half sloka. That is the beauty of our Indian wisdom. Slokardena pravakshami yaduktam granthakotibhi. Let me tell, whatever the thousands of scriptures, whatever is going to tell, let me tell the essence of it in just in half sloka, means just in one line, single line. What is that? Paropakaraya punyaya papaya parapidanam. Whatever you help other people, from that you get punya, that is a good actions. Whenever you are troubling by the actions, if you are troubling someone else, that is called papa, that is called sin. So this is the whole essence of 18 Puranas. So here we get the explanation for Satkarma and Dushkarma, for good action and for bad action. At some point of time, if we get a question whether we are doing the action, whether if it is right or wrong, if this question comes to us, we can remember this shloka. If any action is beneficial to me and others, then definitely it is punya, it is a good action. And if any action is bringing bad for me and for others, then that is a bad action, that is sinful action, that is a prohibited action. At broad canvas, that's what we get. Then based on the Vedas, Vedic injunctions, we get the different classification. It is Vidhi and Nishedha. Vidhi is whatever we are supposed to do. We don't have a chance. We don't have a choice. And Nishedha is again at any time, at all cost, at all times, it is called prohibited actions. In the Vidhi is compulsory actions and Nishedha is prohibited actions. These compulsory actions and these prohibited actions, at all times, we have to strictly follow. There, we don't have any license. Whether shall I follow or not? Shall I do it or not? Shall I perform it or not? This classification is given by Vedic Rishis. What is the Vidhi? Vidhi karma, compulsory actions. Again, that has been described and classified into the 4 parts. Vidhi. One is Nitya karma. Second is Naimitika karma. The third is Kamya karma. And the fourth is Prayashchitta karma. Again, if you want to know very in detail what about the word karma, you will be able to understand and appreciate. Otherwise, why this one word karma, Swami is explaining so many things, you may get a confusion or a question. What is Nitya karma? In a one sentence or in a one word, if you want to tell daily rites, daily rituals. Like after getting a Brahmopadesha, then every day, whoever gets that Gayatri mantra, every day is supposed to do Sandhya Vandana. Earlier, as per the Vedic rituals, we were supposed to do 3 times. Then slowly, then they said afternoon, Madhyanika, we cannot do. Then they forgo and they reduced to 2 times. Then afterwards they said, evening we come out from outside and all, our mind and our body was something we have eaten outside, outside. So we cannot do evening, at least we shall do 1 time. So the Sandhya Vandana was reduced to 1 time, and many of the people and most of the people, except just before marriage they get that Brahmopadesha and that lifetime, 1 time they do that Sandhya Vandana. In the lifetime, they never do this Sandhya Vandana, not even once. But the Veda, they don't give license for us to decide whether shall I do the Sandhya Vandana or not? It is the compulsory action, just like a Sandhya Vandana and Devata Archana. In our house, our tutelary deity has to be worshipped every day. Kula Devata has to be worshipped every day. There we don't have choices except when someone has passed away and we have got for a few days where we are prohibited. Except that every day, tutelary deity, the Kula Devata, has to be worshipped in the house, either by a owner or by a house, any householder in the house. Now, as we belong to the tradition of Ramakrishna order, most of us, we take mantra diksha. After taking a mantra diksha, the Guru tells us how we are supposed to perform upasana. So whatever the Guru tells morning and evening, and how many times we are supposed to repeat, maybe 108 times or 1000 times or 5000, whatever the Guru has told us, for any reason, for whatever reason maybe, we are not supposed to cancel or we are not supposed to be away from doing upasana or performing upasana. Every day we are supposed to perform this upasana, practice upasana, because this is the nitya karma. Then naimittika karma. Naimittika karma is called occasional rites. For example, some child has been born in the house. So jata karma they tell, namakarana, shrimanta, chuda karma, all these occasional rites are shraddha. These are called naimittika karma. Then kamya karma. Kamya karma is optional rites. For example, in Ramayana, we see Dasharatha Maharaja did putra kameshti yaga. Because he didn't have a progeny, he didn't have children, so he did a putra kameshti yaga to get the progeny, to have the progeny. So this type of, I desire something, for that I do a kamya karma, kamya. For particular result, to fulfill particular desires, when I do, that is called kamya karma. And the fourth karma is prayashchitta karma. Prayashchitta karma is penance. For an example, one day suddenly, for whatever reason maybe, I didn't do Sandhya Vandana. Then what should I do? There is in Dharma Shastras, there is a thing. If you don't do one day or one time Sandhya Vandana, you are supposed to chant Gayatri 1000 times more, or 5000 times more, or 10,000 times more, or you are supposed to give some alms for the Brahmin or for some the poor people. Such type of prayashchitta karma has been told in our Vedas or in the Dharma Shastra. This type of actions are called prayashchitta karma. Recently, when I was reading some portion of Dharma Shastra, I got a very beautiful shloka. The meaning of the shloka is, if a purohit goes to a householder house and is getting performed some particular yaga, yagna or vrata, the yajamana or yajamani, if he or she pronounces wrongly the Vedic mantras, then he has to perform 1000 times Gayatri after coming to his house. It's Purohit. If every Purohit, if he strictly follows, then probably from morning to night, he has to keep doing or repeating the Gayatri mantra. Because most of the time, most of us, we don't know Sanskrit. Whatever the Purohitas will be trying to tell, that's why sometimes the Purohitas, I will tell everything, and finally I will tell Mama, you tell the word Mama. So even I am also telling same thing. So this is called Prayashchitta karma. These are the 4 types of karma in the Vedic karma. Then the Nisheda. Nisheda karma is called prohibited actions. Maybe prostitution, drinking alcohol, or gambling, any killing someone. Such type of all actions are called Nisheda karma. This at all times we are supposed to prohibit, we are not supposed to perform. Then from karma phala point of view, most of the time in Kannada we tell, nan karma yen madli we tell. Nan karma yen madli, what does it mean? Because I have done some karma, I have done some good action or bad action, that's the reason I am enjoying or I am suffering. When I say that nan karma yen madli, means that though we use the word karma, we actually mean that karma phala. Now the word adrushta has got a lot of beautiful meanings. But unfortunately, in Hinduism, the whole beautiful, this karma theory has been boiled out to the fatalistic theory. The whole karma siddhanta, the whole theory of law of action, or the whole theory of karma has been boiled down to the fatalistic theory. But our law of action, karma siddhanta, is not the fatalistic theory, rather it is the science of possibilities. What do you mean by fatalistic action or fatalistic theory and the science of possibilities? For an example, when we say some person, he's a very lucky person. Before his birth, before taking his birth, Lord Brahma has written on his forehead what should happen and what should not happen. So he's a very lucky person. So whatever he does, everything for him, all the time, there is a success. But whatever I try to do, all the time, most of the time, many times, I will get always failures. Because that is my fate. Because Brahma has written on my forehead like this. But it is very wrong idea, wrong notion, or wrong concept. Why? Because the Brahma never writes anything on our forehead. He has got better work to do. Then what do you mean by this adrushta? Drushta means which can be seen, adrushta. For any word in the Sanskrit, if you use akara, it becomes negative. Drushta, which can be seen, adrushta means which cannot be seen. So adrushta means, if you see the literal meaning of the adrushta, the word adrushta, which cannot be seen. But what do the word adrushta mean? When I perform a good action, whatever the results of action is stored in my mind or in my bank account, just like a bank account, that is called adrushta. Means luck. Whenever I perform a bad action, sinful actions, and whatever the results we get from the such type of bad actions, wrong actions, sinful actions, the resultant will be definitely bad results. That is called duradrushta. Adrushta is dur. Dur means wrong, bad, sinful. So duradrushta means what? Ill fit. If a person is very lucky person, that means what? In his previous births, he has performed good actions. If some person is very unlucky person, that means in his previous lives, he has done wrong actions, he has performed sinful actions. So either if I am lucky or unlucky, it is not due to God, it is not due to Brahma, Chaturmukha Brahma, it is due to me only. See? That's why I said the Karma Siddhanta is not the fatalistic theory, rather it is the science of possibilities. If you do more and more good actions, then you will have more and more adrushta, that is luck, then you will be a very happiest person. If you perform more and more bad actions, wrong actions, sinful actions, then your account will be fully deficit, means duradrushta or ill fate. So if you want to be a lucky person, you have to practice or you have to perform good actions. And if you perform wrong actions, sinful actions, then your bank account will be loss or deficit. Means it will be ill fate. So based on this karma phala, again, the karma is classified into 3 types of karma. One is agami karma, prarabdha karma, sanchita karma. Probably I will give you a simple day-to-day example and I will come to this technicality. Otherwise, people may get confused. For example, I am earning money, 10,000 every month. 2 or 3,000 I am using and 7,000 I am just depositing in my bank account. Now, whatever the 2 or 3,000 just I am using for my day-to-day life, for my work or for my life, for purchasing something, that is what called prarabdha karma. Already whatever I have deposited the amount, my salary amount in the bank, that is what sanchita karma. And whatever I will be drawing the salary in the coming months, that is what agami karma. So I have withdrawn some 2 or 3 or 5,000 to live my life or to maintain my life, to manage my livelihood. That is what prarabdha karma. So I have drawn some karma phala for this life and I am enjoying or I am suffering due to my karma phala, due to the fruits of action. And already whatever is accumulated in my bank account, that is nothing but sanchita karma. It is already stored. Now I am doing new business and I am working, and whenever, every month I am drawing the salary and I am trying to put in every month in the bank. That is what agami karma. Agami karma is also called krayamana karma. Also, they use the word, technical name is called krayamana karma. So based on the karma phala, these three type of action has been classified. In the Karma Yoga, Swamiji discusses about the action and its effect on character, its effect on the society, its effect on the civilization in a wonderful way, in a very subtle way. The similar ideas can be seen in one of our Shastra. How we, without any awareness, without any consciousness, without any responsibility, most of the time we perform actions. Kelsa madre sakapa. Somehow we have to do work and we have to finish. If it is giving name and fame, if it is giving good money, then we bother. Otherwise, we don't bother. Somehow we shall finish the work and we shall get out. We shall get rid of the work and responsibility, we think. But it is not so. The effect of karma, the effect of action on our personality is very, 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 very subtle. This is told by one of the Shastrakara, probably Sureshwaracharya. I will tell the meaning. Nitya karma anushtanat dharmotpattihi. Dharmotpattehe papahanihi. Tataha chitta shuddhihi. Tataha samsara yadhatma avabodaha. Tataha vairagyam. Tataha mumukshatvam. Tataha tad upaya prekshanam. Tataha sarva karma tat sadhana sanyasaha. Tataha yogabhyasaha. Tataha chittasya pratyak pravanataha. Tataha tattva samsyaji vakyartha parignayanam. Tataha avidyocheda tatascha svatmani eva avasthanam. A beautiful sloka. Very beautiful sloka. The whole karma siddhanta has been boiled out in this sloka. Nitya karma anushtanat. By performing the daily rites, by performing the rightful actions, what happens? Dharmotpattihi. Dharma, again we hear the word dharma means religion. Here dharma means it is the fruits of action. Phala, karma phala. What type of karma phala? Either good or bad. When you do good action, it is a good. When you do bad action, it is bad. But here they have taken, when you do nitya karma means it is the compulsory action. By doing compulsory action, by doing good actions, you will get good merits. That is called adrushta. Then dharmotpattehe. By accumulation of adrushta, what happens? Papa hanihi. All our sins will be nullified. Our sins will be destroyed. Now, here there is a two karma siddhanta in our India or in our Hinduism. Some of the pandits, some of the acharyas, they tell that whatever we do, good or bad, by performing good actions, we cannot nullify the result of bad actions. You have to experience, you have to suffer. This is one thought. The other is that you may not be able to nullify completely, but to larger extent, you can nullify, or rather, you will become more and more strong, so that whatever the effect of the bad actions happens on you, you will not be bothered. Your mind will not be flattened. So, papahani, then your sins will be nullified, your sins will be cancelled. Then if you continue your nitya karma, what happens? Tataha chitta shuddhi. Chitta is mind. The purification of mind happens. So just from on dawn to dusk, we are performing so much actions. From eating, drinking, respiration, all these are actions. It is called karma. And I'm sleeping, I'm thinking something good and bad about either father and mother, or about relatives, or about my kith and kin, or about my neighbors, about colleagues, or about in the boss in the company, or my housemaid and etc. All this mental thinking is also an action, only karma. So, but if you do wrong actions, then you don't get chitta shuddhi. Then tataha samsara yathatma avabodha. When your mind is purified, you will be able to understand the yathartha thing, the reality of samsara. What? You will be coming and you will be going. This is not eternal, it is non-eternal. So you are supposed to understand what is your real nature. Avabodha, you will understand the truth. the reality of this world and the reality of the Bhagavan or the Atman. Then tataha, once you understand the reality, the non-eternalness of the world, or the world is just appearance, I and I alone is real. That is from the point of Atman or Brahman, or the Lord and Lord alone is real. When the moment you understand tataha, then tataha means then, tataha what happens? Vairagyam, dispassion. Slowly, vairagyam comes. Dispassion comes towards the things. For an example, when we were small children, we used to fight for a marble. I want blue marble. Between either with my brothers or sisters, whatever, when we were kids, we used to fight just for a marble. But the elders, they used to see and they used to laugh. That is just 1 paisa, 2 paisa, 10 paisa, 50 paisa. That doesn't have any value. These people are just fighting for each other. Because we used to give the value, so much value for just one marble. But as we grew, then when we found the worthness, the value of the marble, then we also started laughing. We don't give any value to it. Why? Because our mind has grown, so we don't give any value. Since we are giving lot of value to this world, why? Because we are giving value, so the world has value. The moment that this dispassion comes, the vairagya comes, what happens? You don't give any value to this world. You stop giving this value to this world. You stop valuing this world. That's what we can see in the life of Purandaradasa. Navakoti Narayana he was reluctant to give even a single penny. But once that vairagya came, once the dispassion came, the entire property simply he gave away for the people. Because once he understands that the real worth, the real sampath is Lord and Lord alone, not this gold, not this diamond, not this pearls, not this money, definitely he gave away. Because he got a vairagya. He stopped valuing this world and its products. So tata vairagyam, that's the role and beauty of vairagya. So many times, people they do ask, Swamiji, you don't feel anything problem? How could you come to this life? Many monks were asked this simple question, especially when we go to colleges and all. Many people they ask, you don't feel anything, Swamiji? You don't feel boredom? You don't feel such, you have lost something because you have come to this mundane, you have come to this life, monotonous life, very bland life. They ask because they are giving value to this world. That's why for them it is very colorful. After suffering so much suffering, they may again come back. The moment you stop the value to giving value to this world, even though you are in the world, for you, the world doesn't exist. This we can see beautifully in the life of Sri Ramakrishna, in the life of Vivekananda, in the life of Krishna, in the life of Rama. The next day, or at the early morning, Rama was supposed to be crowned as a prince or as a king. When his father's desire, his father's intention, when he understood, he never felt anything. Even in the mind, not to speak of outside, even in the mind. He didn't have any mentally or emotionally, he didn't have a single negative thought. He came and he prostrated to all the materials which were kept for the coronation, and he went and he said, for mother, this is my father's intention. And he said, I simply walked out. Why? Because he never gave any value to this world, to this power and position, to the name and fame. So Sri Ramakrishna tells beautifully with Master Mahashaya, if this world would have been real, then I would have covered my entire village Kamarpukur with the gold. If this world is real, if this world to be real, then my birthplace Kamarpukur, I would have been covered with the gold entirely. Means Sri Ramakrishna knew very clearly the world is an illusion or just is an appearance. In reality, it is something else. That's why they didn't give any value. We are giving value to the world. Why? Because we don't have vairagya. Why? Because our mind, purification of mind, chitta shuddhi has not been happened. Mind is not purified yet. It has been kalmash, it has been dirt with the worldliness. So we are unable to see what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad, what is real and what is unreal, what is real and what is an appearance. Because we don't have purification of mind. That's why vairagya is not coming. Tatha vairagyam. Once vairagya comes, then what happens? Tataha mumukshatvam. Moktum icha mumukshatva. one who is desiring for the liberation. Let me liberate myself from this mundane world. Let me not again take birth. Who will go to again kindergarten? Who will learn ABCDI again and again? Who will stay in this 9 months in the mother's womb with that suffocation? Let me not. Let me get away from this cycle of samsara, birth and death. Tadha mumukshatva. Then tadupaya prekshanam. Then he starts searching. What is the upaya? What is the route? Or what is the path from which I can come out from this samsara, from which I can get the realization, liberation? Then tataha sarva karma tat sadhana sannyasa. Whatever he performs, he will be always performing either to get the God realization. Slowly when he performs, as Sri Ramakrishna tells in Kathamrita, automatically the karma falls off from himself. So similarly, tat sadhana sannyasa, the karma falls from such person. It has to fall by itself. We should not stop karma. Tataha yogabhyasaha. He stops external actions, or he does very minimum external actions, and just he concentrates his mind, he concentrates his time, he concentrates his energy in the yogabhyasa. Yogabhyasa means not the yogasanas, the spiritual practices here means. Tataha yogabhyasa, tataha chittasya pratyak pravanata. Then he starts keeping aloof himself from this world. That's what we can see in the Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yoga. So many things are happening. Just you will be as a drashta, you will be staying. Neither I belong to this world, nor this world belongs to me. Because prarabdha karma is there, I have taken the birth, let me get out. I don't belong to this world, and world doesn't belong to me. As a drashta, as a seer, and whatever the world and the situations, whatever it happens, it will be as a scene, drashta and drashtu. Drugdrupsya viveka. Here we can see there. Then tataha, then what happens? Tattva samsyadi vakyartha pariknayanam. Tattva samsyadi, samyak syadi. Tattva. He tries to understand what is real. Whatever the teachings given by Rama, Krishna, or Ramakrishna, or Vedas, Upanishads, he tries to contemplate on them. He tries to meditate on them. Then, tataha avidyochedha. Avidya, ignorance is broken. Shavana, manana, nididhyasana. This is because Advaita Grantha, they are telling that. Tataha, then what happens? Avidya uchedha. Means that avidya has been cut asunder. Tatascha swatmani eva avasthanam. Tataha, then what happens? Swatmani, swa-atmani. He gets eva, surely, avasthanam, gets settled, gets established. Where? Swatmani. He gets established in his self. Means his whole attention, his whole mind, his whole consciousness will be established in his self. Tattvamasi aham asme brahma. I am that, you are that. So, to understand that I am Atma, Brahma, Aham Brahmasmi, etc., it starts from Nitya Karma, Upasana. Because we take Mantra Diksha, we do some perform actions, we do some Upasana, because Guru has told by performing that I will have mental peace, I will have get Punya, so that next time I will be probably a son of Mukesh Ambani or Tata Birla. This type of thinking, many people, most of the people, they will have. But the Nitya Karma should not start with that. Because I have to perform good action, because from that I will get a punya, so that I will have a luck, so that I will be a lucky person, I will be a looking wonderful person, I will get a good progeny, I will get a good wife, I will get a good husband, I will get a lot of amount, etc. This should not be our intention. Why I am supposed to perform good action? Because finally it is swatmani eva avasthanam. You see? We perform actions in such an irresponsible way. So every action, either is a physical or mental or intellectual or at thought level or spiritual action, every action should be directed towards swatmani eva avasthanam. Let me understand my real nature. To understand my real nature, I have to perform. This is what spiritualizing everyday life. So the effect of karma, how much it is there, we have to understand. This is beautifully told by Swami Vivekananda in his Karma Yoga. He tells, what is civilization? He goes to the extent saying that it's again wonderful masterpiece, Swamiji's Karma Yoga. There he tells, the civilization is nothing but the manifestation of your mind. I've never read anywhere else except in Swamiji's Karma Yoga. It is wonderful. The whole sociology, psychology can be evolved from this one single statement. The whole civilizations are nothing but the manifestation of your minds, he tells. What a beauty. Whatever we see civilization, it is mentally, there's a picture inside, that's why we are able to bring it out. When we see, now for an example, we are sitting in an auditorium, how it came into existence? Sureshanji Maharaj felt that let us have an auditorium. Then he told to an engineer, let us build an auditorium. Then according to the necessity, whatever Swami, revered Swami Sureshanji Maharaj told, keeping that in a mind, first mentally he made a blueprint, the engineer. Then he put on the paper, then the masons brought into this form. This one means this auditorium was mentally, it was in the either Sureshanji Maharaj's mind or in the engineer's mind. The whole civilization is nothing but the manifestation of the mind. Swami tells beautifully in Karma Yoga. And what is this mind? It is nothing but he tries to explain. What is the mind? He tells, whatever you have done, the good action or bad action, the past impressions of these good actions and bad actions are nothing but the mind. The storehouse of past impressions of the good actions and bad actions are nothing but the mind. And these past impressions, either good or bad, whatever the impression has been created, that is nothing but your character. So, as you sow, so as you reap. ಬಿತ್ತಿದಂತೆ ಬೆಳೆ ಸುಳ್ಳಲ್ಲ. ಉಪ್ಪದಿಂದವನು ನೀರು ಕುಡಿಲೇಬೇಕು. All these things we tell. But means what? Our character, our personality depends on, it is formed from our character. Our character is formed from our good actions and past actions, bad actions. These good actions and bad actions comes from where? Again, it comes from our thoughts. If I have good thoughts, I will be propelled, I will be compelled to do good actions. If I've got a wrong thinking, if my thoughts are bad, then I will be compelled, I will be propelled, I will be encouraged to perform wrong actions. So to perform good actions and bad actions, the root cause is thoughts. We think so many things in our mind the entire day without any responsibility, without any awareness. You see. And the thoughts, from where it comes? From our desires. Dhyayato Vishyan Pumsa Sangasteshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kamat Krodho. We already discussed in the second chapter, you see. Just we think, I think some ill, bad about either my colleague or about my husband or about my wife or about my kith and kin or about my relatives or about my neighbors. We think and we leave it. We think but that has created an impression in our character. Today or tomorrow, it will propel us, it will encourage us to perform a wrong action or wicked action. That's what we can see in the Mahabharata. That's what we can see in Ramayana. What was the difference between Rama and Ravana? What was the difference between Duryodhana and Dharmaraya? It is nothing but their personalities, we all say. How that personality came, how that personality was formed. Behind the personality was their character. What was the reason for the character? It was nothing but the fruits of bad actions and good actions. How the fruits of good and bad actions came? Because they performed good actions and bad actions. How it came again? It was due to the good thoughts and wrong thoughts, bad thoughts, which was in their mind. So thinking, mental action is much more strong, much more forceful than the physical actions. But unfortunately, we don't think. That's why in the North India, for sadhus, for mendicants, for monks, they always tell sadhu, savdhan, be aware, be aware, be aware. Because the enemies for the monks, they are not outside. For the spiritual person, for any spiritual person, for any sadhaka, for a monk especially, the enemies are inside. Because about my samskara, about my Harishad Vargas, that only will pull us back. So that's why sadhu, savdhan. This is what we can see beautifully in Karma Yoga, Swamiji's Karma Yoga. And he tells that how this Buddha came into existence. What is Buddha after all? What is Lord Christ after all? What is Sri Ramakrishna after all? What is Rama after all? What is Krishna after all? Why do we worship? Because they had a gigantic well. He uses the word, beautiful word again. We should, all this one sentence, we should meditate. He tells why we worship, why we revere them. Why we respect them? Why they were able to create an history? Because they had a gigantic will. Use the word gigantic will. How this gigantic will was created? He gives the beautiful example of the ocean. If you see a big form in the ocean, the wave, how that big wave was formed in the ocean? It was nothing but the collection of small waves. So because Ramakrishna, Buddha, Mahavira, all these people we respect, we revere, they created history because they had a gigantic will. How this gigantic will happened, how this gigantic will was formed, it was due to the performing right actions at right time, performing so many small right actions in due course of time, in many births, this gigantic will was formed. That's why it was a huge wave in the ocean. So this Buddha or Christ or all these people were nothing in the civilization, they were the huge waves. They created a huge wave and they went away. It was just like waves subsides, they also went away. It was due to gigantic will. Icha Shakti, we say. And how we can have Icha Shakti, how we can have the gigantic will? By performing right actions and having a mind control. Swamiji gives a beautiful answer. And how it is performed, how it is can be? Then by doing a right thoughts, proper thinking, right action, right thinking. You see? One word, karma, how much it is getting linked. Maybe in the individual life or in the society, with respect to society, with respect to civilization. Whatever we think, for everything, knowingly or unknowingly, everything was linked, everything was chained in and around this word, karma. But unfortunately, this word karma has been neglected in the Indian scenario. Swami tells very beautifully. And he rebukes Indians, saying that you people have misunderstood the karma theory, and as a result, you people have become laziest people in the world, in spite of having the highest sublime thoughts, highest philosophy like Advaita. You have got highest philosophy like Advaita in the world where no one has got. In spite of having the highest philosophy, you people have become laziest people in the world. Why? Because you misunderstood the karma siddhanta, the law of karma, law of action. This is one thing. And from point of Shastra, point of scriptures also, Adi Shankaracharya came in the 8th century. He always tried in the whole Bhashya, in the Prasthanatraya, that is Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads and Brahma Sutra, Mimamsaka Sutra, everywhere he tries to establish, wherever he gets a chance, that moksha or mukti or atmagnana is possible only, one and only through jnana, through knowledge alone. Not from the karma, he tells. So this had a cascading effect in the Indian scenario. When the people started reading and learning the Adi Shankaracharya's teachings, then the people understood, okay, the moksha or mukti or atmagnana is possible only through Shravana Manana Nidhyasana, a scripture study or gnana knowledge, not from karma. Then slowly the whole society started neglecting the action. This was the real threat. This was the real threat for Indian society. You see, till 7th and 8th century, if you see the history, we have studied the Indian history and world history at large, you'll be able to understand. Till 7th and 8th centuries, whoever Greeks, Romans, and whoever they came and they tried to attack on India, at every time, India gave a retarding reply for all of them and they were sent back. After 8th and 9th century, due to Jainism and Buddhism, due to their Ahimsa, Tattva, and Shankaracharya's Naishkarmya, these two things which weakened Indian society. Slowly, after 8th and 9th century, small countries, they started attacking us, they started invading us, and we were unable to give the retarding reply. If you wrongly understand any philosophy, the whole nation, the whole society, how it can go into dots, you can understand beautifully. Again, if you study deeply the history of India and the world, only you will be able to understand all my points. But Adi Shankaracharya, he never meant that we should neglect the work or action. That was the wrong understanding which was made by us. Then what was intention in describing through Gnana alone you get a knowledge, Atma Gnana, and not by karma. That was the time where Mimamsa had an upper hand in the India. People were busy in performing lot of sacrifices and lot of rituals. And this Mimamsa people were telling, even the monk, even the mendicant, even the Atma Gnan, you may be Brahma Gnan, you may be Sthirapratna, whomever so, till your death, you have to perform karma and karma alone, and you have to perform Garahastya, Grihastha Dharma only. Who can become monks? Who is a lame person? Who is a blind person? Who is a deaf person? Who is a dumb person? Who doesn't get any bridegroom? These people can become monks. If he is fit and if he can get bridegroom, if he is healthy and wealthy, then he should not become monk. He is not entitled. He doesn't have a license to become monk. This was the idea of the Purva Mimamsakas. Now to break this, and to make understand the supremacy of knowledge, to understand the beauty of the knowledge, Adi Shankaracharya told vehemently, he broke down, he cracked down on the Mimamsaka, saying that through karma alone, we don't get Atma Gnana. Rather, through Gnana and Gnana alone, we get Atma Gnana. So, we need not to perform the Agnihotra or Homa Havana till our death. There is no need for that. And for monks, definitely it is not. So that's why it's called Agni Tyaga. Agni Tyaga means, it doesn't mean that we should not touch fire. Again, there's a wrong misunderstanding. Why? Because Matadipadis, they don't cook. Because Agni Tyaga has been told. And we in Ramakrishna Mission, we cook ourselves, we cook for others also. How? Because they're against Vedas. Many people they tell. Again, it's a wrong understanding. Their Agni Tyaga means what? Agni symbolizes for Kamya Karma. Earlier, people used to do Agnihotra, people used to do Panchagni and etc. Once you become a monk, you are doing a Agni Tyaga. Means from today onwards, you are not supposed to perform any Kamya Karmas because you have to live your life for Bhagavan and Bhagavan alone. Again, that has been misunderstood. So like this, we Indians, we mistook for Karma Siddhanta, we boiled down the Karma Siddhanta for the fatalistic theory. As a result, India was shattered and India was invaded again, starting from Sikandars, from Ghazni, Gori, Mughals, British, Dutch, French, Portuguese, etc. And then Kushanas, then from the China side, Mongols, all these people they invaded and they attacked and they looted. Why? Because we became weak. The whole society became weak. Why? Because one is due to Ahimsa Tattva, which was misunderstood. The Ahimsa Tattva of Jainism and Buddhism, the first thing. And the second thing of this Karma Siddhanta was also misunderstood in the Indian scenario. So if we misunderstand philosophy, what happens at the individual level, at the society level, or at the country level? So there, when Adi Shankaracharya tells, Kaivalya or Mukti is through Gnana alone, not from Karma, means it is there from Agnihotra, Vaidika Karma, not the Karma by Upasana or whatever. But when Swami Vivekananda comes, he very clearly clears all of these things and he tells that the Karma, through Karma and Karma alone, you will be the fit person for Atma Gnana. And he goes to an extent saying that through Karma Yoga, directly you can attain Brahma Gnana. And he gives the example of King Janaka and King Ambarisha. So whatever the misconception at the philosophical level was existing in India, Swami Vivekananda came and he cleared it. But unfortunately, most of us, many of us, today also, we are carrying this confusion because lack of study, lack of proper understanding. Now coming to Gita. Even the same question, the same confusion, even Arjuna also had. Jayasi chet karmanaste matha buddhir janardana tatkim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi Keshava. Oh Keshava, if you see the Sankhya Yoga, Prajahati from Yada Kama to Esha Brahmi Sthiti Partha, initially he starts and he tells the supremacy of knowledge. And in middle he tells about the beauty of karma, action. And again he comes to knowledge of Sthita Prajna, he comes. Spiritual hero. It describes about spiritual hero. So Gnana in middle karma and again Gnana it happens. If you use the schematic philosophy of the Sankhya Yoga. Then he gets a confusion. Arjuna asks the opening of the third chapter Karma Yoga. Hey Janardana, hey Keshava, according to you, If jnana, knowledge is superior, then why are you asking me to perform action? And you are saying that jnana is superior, and you are asking me, and you are compelling me, you are forcing me to perform actions too, which is, and either it is not complementary, it is contradictory. So your statement is appearing to me like a contradictory. So please, I am already confused. That's why I have taken a surrender at your holy feet. Please, you don't confuse me. Already I am confused. You tell me clearly, straightforward, which is right, what is right, which is superior, which is inferior, what is right, what is wrong. Accordingly, let me perform, let me do. So this confusion is not only with you and me, this confusion has started in the aeons, and even for Arjuna also had this confusion. Now, very beautifully, one probably small joke, I will finish, tell and I'll finish. If you don't understand probably what happens, karma sannyasa, we should give away action, which is inferior, which is superior, Arjuna is asking. We are not supposed to ask which is inferior and which is superior. Rather, we are supposed to ask which suits me. Which is inferior, which is superior, we are not supposed to ask. Why? Because which suits me is very, very important. We can see beautifully, Sri Ramakrishna tells. A person tells that I have got vairagya towards this world and towards the samsara, let me go and take sannyasa. He tells in the house, then the house people, his wife, kith and kin, his parents, everyone, they plead in that, please don't take sannyasa, etc., etc. He tells, no, I will take sannyasa, I have got vairagya. Then finally they say, okay, it is left to you, it is your life. Then he goes, and he says that I'll go to Kashi, there I will live my life, and I will take sannyas and I will lead my spiritual life. After few days, probably a month or so, he sends a letter to their family that after going to Kashi, I got a good job, and it is giving a good money also, so now my life is settled, so don't worry, I will send money in due course of time. Now this fellow went to become sannyasi. This fellow went to Kashi to become sannyasi, and he sends a letter saying that I've got a good job, lucrative job, then don't worry, I'm settled. Why? Because here it was abhava, he was not getting a good job, bright job, lucrative job, so he had got a dispassion, he got a vairagya. That is what? Markata vairagya, smashana vairagya. So that at that point of time, just here, it appears that for him it was a dispassion, vairagya had come. But once he go to Kashi, somehow he meets some person and there he got a good job, then all his vairagya ceases to exist and he was happiest person. Now he is trying to enjoy the world by having a good salary. Though the sannyasa life is superior, but he is not ready to take the life of sannyasa. That's why when we join, for most of the monks, we face this problem. All our parents, they all tell, every one of you are our parents, every one of us are them, everyone know that the sannyasa life is best life. They do, when we go, they do pada puja, they do namaskara, they give dakshina, etc., etc. But when their children, they want to become monks, then they say, no, don't do it. This is not, this is sinful action. Some sannyasis come to their house, they do pada puja, they show all the respect, but when his or her son take the life of renunciation, a life of monk life, then they say that they cry, they abuse, they shout, they curse, and they tell that, no, you are not supposed to do. It is not your karma, because Matu Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, all they because their life and their thinking is contradictory. So the whole of our life is full of contradictions. Even this type of contradiction has been faced by Arjuna. Now Bhagavan, he laughs and he starts telling that though it appears to be contradiction, it is not so, Arjuna. He tells the sublime thoughts. He gives the Upadesha in forthcoming shlokas. So when we understand the spirituality, when we understand the philosophy properly, we will be able to practice provided we get a emotional quotient. We all of us, we have got IQ, instead of Prajna, you should remember, intelligent quotient. But most of us, we are not able to practice it. We are not able to put it to practice. Why? Because we don't have an emotional quotient. That is called Ichha Shakti, you can say, or whatever so. When we get emotional quotient along with intelligent quotient, then we can be really sadhakas, then we can take the spiritual life very seriously. So to have this intelligent quotient, emotional quotient, to become more and more stronger, we have to do upasana, we have to do such type of, we have to attend more and more Gita classes and etc. To establish ourselves in the spiritual life, to understand what is right and what is wrong, and to practice what is right, and to leave away, to shun away, to renounce, to keep away ourselves from the wrong actions or wrong thoughts. Let Sri Ramakrishna and Vasudeva give such type of discrimination and intelligent quotient, emotional quotient for all of us, so that we shall try to pursue the spiritual life and we shall get rid of this samsara. प्रियतां पुण्डरीकाक्षः सर्वयज्ञेश्वरो हरिः तस्मिन् तुष्टे जगत्तुष्टं प्रीणिते प्रीणितं जगत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ तत्सत् श्रीरामकृष्णार्पणमस्तु।